Good afternoon and welcome to the Living Well program. You can find us here every Wednesday at 1 p.m. on KATB 89.3 in Anchorage as well as KJLP 88.9 in Palmer. You can also find us online in a few different places. Catch us at katb.org as well as our Facebook page at Living Well Radio. And be sure to look us up on iTunes. You can find us there now. Just search for Living Well as a podcast available on iTunes. We look forward to connecting with you in any one of those places. We've got a very special show for you today. My name is Cammie, and I'm joined once again by Betty. Say hi, Betty.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
I am well. I'm looking forward to this show. We have some characters in the studio today.
Do we have some characters? We have no idea what's going to happen, do we?
This is so true.
So many
We're
variables.
Totally out of control in this one.
In more ways than
Yes.
one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Typically, it's kind of predictable what conversations are going to take place today.
Not today.
It's just all out there. So we have a very special guest joining us today. No stranger to me. Super excited to have him in the studio today. Please welcome Jeremiah to Living Well.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
How you doing, Jeremiah?
Doing good. This is interesting to see you in this light.
In case nobody knows, he is my husband, and we're super excited to have him joining us today and just doing an interview talking about all things dad. So Betty and I thought we would try something new. In fact, Betty thought of it. Tell us a little bit about what prompted you to want to do this show today, Betty.
Well, Father's Day is coming up, and we did one for Mother's Day talking about mothers, and I just thought it was only fair that we do the same thing for Father's Day. So we invited a couple of dads to come into the studio. And we're just going to ask them about being a dad, what it's like, what they enjoy, maybe even some of their fears. And you know, Cammie, when women get in here and talk, we just chat and talk and talk and talk and talk. And men are not notorious for talking that much. So
right?
It should be interesting.
Yep. So we're going to get all 20 of his words right here on radio today. We're going to get them recorded.
I don't know some, so
might not even be that many.
We better get to it. Jeremiah, I want to just go ahead and get today's show started by just a real general question, even though I know about these guys, but most of the people listening may not. Tell us a little bit about your kids.
Well, I have three of them, as you know, a 19-year-old, a 15-year-old, and a 9-year-old. And so we've got quite the span, and it's definitely interesting times now with our 19-year-old and the 9-year-old being such a large gap there. I mean, you know firsthand, trying to deal with a 19-year-old is so much different than a 9-year-old. And then you got the boy who's 15 in the middle, either causing more problems or not even existing. So
yeah, both ends of the spectrum there. And it definitely has been a challenge, Betty, and you may be able to relate to this too, just the different age brackets and trying to find activities that suit and fulfill everybody at the same time. So we find ourselves kind of splitting up a little bit on boys and girls teams and doing different things.
Yeah, there was 14 years between our oldest and our youngest.
Wow.
Let's see, 14, is that right? 14. Yep, 14 years.
Yeah, so you totally know.
So my youngest has 3 moms.
Yes.
You know, myself and my 2 older daughters.
Exactly. Exactly.
So I know.
How would you say the 3 of the kids have been different or alike? What stands out to you the most in regards to that?
that is not the next question.
We don't go in order here. Who would think a man would think that way?
I have these written down and noted in the right order.
All right. Hey, you know what? That's not a problem. Let's just stick with that order.
That's fine.
It's too cute.
We can bounce around however works for you. Hold on.
No, as you scroll back to where we got to go. Jeremiah, what has brought you the greatest joy in being a dad?
Is that the next one? Just being a dad. That has been being there for them, listening to them, snuggling with them. You know, if anybody's seen the movie The Croods, we joke about that all the time where we just dogpile on dad or whoever's on the bottom. Caden gets it because now he's as big as dad. And I just love being around the family. So when I come home from work, just entering the doors it's a relief, it's a recharge. You know, it's one of the questions you have on there. What do I find when I'm low is just being in the same house. So it may not be the same room, but in the same house.
Now, this question is not on the list.
Uh-oh.
Do you ever see yourself in your kids?
Oh, yeah. We are getting more and more apparent now that we've got the oldest one, 19, getting a personality of her own, and seeing some of the ways that I in particular have raised, her being our first one, now showing their true colors. That is definitely an interesting time, because she is becoming her own person, but she's still exuding those areas that I helped form and mold.
Mm-hmm.
And now that's become part of her, and that is sometimes difficult and rewarding at the same time.
It's different having an adult child live at home versus having a 9-year-old, isn't it?
Very much. I mean, she thinks she's grown up until it comes time to get that checkbook out and start writing some of her own checks. And she's like, what? What's a checkbook?
Or what's a bill?
Exactly.
Or, Dad, can I have 10?
Yeah.
Or 30?
Exactly. Anywhere in
Mom,
between.
put that away.
Yeah. How has it been different to raise girls versus boys from your perspective?
It's, I was thinking about that question, and my first initial response was, sometimes it's not different. It's more the age. But then it is when it comes to some of the activities and the emotions. My son, he's pretty even-kiltered, just takes it. I'll get on his case. He just takes it. He gets excited. Looks like he's just there, not really excited, until he's playing his games, and I can hear him yelling at his friends. But really, that's pretty level kilter there. The older and the younger, both are girls, and I see big spikes in
Imagine
their
that,
emotions.
Betty. Are you surprised?
Gee. Gee. The emotional
Yeah,
part.
so that
Yes.
part's been interesting for me, being raised by a single mom. I guess I kind of had to deal with that, but seeing it from the standpoint of my daughters, it's still new. So Shaylee, the little one, she's still learning how to cope, and I hear these excited moments when she's yelling at her brother or her sister because she's not getting her way to some extent. But then the oldest one, she does the same kind of thing when she's not getting her way. So they are kind of mirrors of each other to some extent. Just some talk more than the other ones, I guess. It's still a learning experience for me.
Jeremiah, you mentioned you were raised by a single mom, so you did not have a dad in the home. How has that affected your thoughts or your actions as being a father to your kids?
I was trying to answer that and put my notes on my phone, and the best answer I could come up with is that, I knew I was being raised by a single parent, and so in some cases and scenarios as I got maybe my teens, I tried to take that into consideration, thinking, how am I going to do this differently?
Mm-hmm.
But it was never, I was, doing the research and what I was going to do, but in that certain scenario, how would I act? And now I see that being on the other end of that spectrum, now being the dad, what is it that I wanted when I was a kid, not having a dad? And so I try to use that memory of not having a dad now on how it would play into either my son or my daughter's life or scenario or whatever we're dealing with. So I try to take that instance and say, okay, what would I have liked, or what did I miss out on? And then I make sure that I make that become a present factor in whatever it is we're doing. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I use that as kind of a gap filler to hopefully provide what I would have wanted in their life that hopefully they'll appreciate as they get older.
Now, Jeremiah, correct me if I'm wrong, or just jump in here as I try to describe this, because we probably have some single moms listening. And, I just want to put a plug out there for the importance of having your kids in church, because just walking alongside you as your wife, I've heard you give such credit to the church for really standing in the gap and just really being that stability that you lacked in having a father, because your mom made sure that you were in church and that was a priority in your life. And wouldn't you say that that was a big contributing factor into just molding you and shaping you into the person that you are today?
Very much. It's one thing to require your kids to be there, and I think it plays a big role in what age they are, right? So they don't know or don't have a say, at least our kids don't or didn't, when they were younger, about being in church. That was just the part of life that you're going to do Wednesdays, you're going to do Sunday nights, and you're going to do Sunday mornings. You're going to be involved in your youth group. And as it imprinted on my life, I adopted some of what, especially in this church, since preacher has been here for so long. I went to kindergarten here, so I've gotten the chance to use him kind of as a role model in the areas of preaching and what word that he would preach out of the Bible, and his stance on things and his ability to communicate. And that I kind of adopted as my own. So one of the things that I see is very important is if it's a single mom or even a single dad, I saw a lot of kids who had parents who went to school here, and taking that and making that relationship their own is the biggest thing. So somehow, if you're a single parent, you're going to require your kids to be here. That's going to be great. But at some point along the way, you've got to figure out how to encourage them to take ownership of that relationship. So now you can foster that with them, not for them. And hopefully that's what's going to be the life changer on the other end. So when it comes time for them to graduate, they don't fall off the wagon, if you call it the wagon, but they stay plugged into church wherever it is they go to college, or if they get out of the house, wherever they go. That has become a part of their life versus my mom and dad say, I got to go to church. And so often you see a lot of that. So that would be what I would encourage those that are single parents, if you need or want some of that support, is to get plugged into church and get your kids plugged into church and make it something they enjoy doing, because when the time comes for them to get out of the house, that's going to be that helping hand, if you will, to help make sure that those kids have a path to stay on after they get out of under your wing.
Has there been men that have come along beside you in life that you could go to and ask questions about being a dad, since you did not have one growing up?
Not really. I've gotten close to some male figures being older. I'd say it's kind of late now. Younger ages, we were in a Fairbanks alone, just Cammie and I, raising our kids. My mom was around for a little bit, but no male, real heavy figures that were involved. Not that I can think of any that you can recall that kind of stood out, played a role. No.
Do you see a need for that? Do you think that would definitely be a help to like younger fathers?
I do. I think that there's no manual, right, to being a dad or a mom and or raising kids. I know there's lots of books out there, and we've listened to some that have been real helpful. Cammie's more the reader in the family, and she'll take what she's learned and give me that input. And, I take that and try to adopt that and incorporate it into how I think raising kids should work. And it's definitely a lot easier if you own that and do your own research. But if you're not the kind of person who does a lot of the reading and absorbs information that way, books on tape, audiobooks, podcasts like this, hopefully people can get plugged into something and then reach out. I think that's the biggest piece, is reaching out and just inquiring to other people that may be willing to provide that kind of support. So I definitely think it's important. And I know I never had it. I didn't always reach out because I didn't know where to reach out. But it seems like today there's more and more resources available. You just got to do a little Google search and find it if it's something that you think you're missing.
What would you say God has taught you about himself through being a father?
I wrote this one down. I got to look this one up. This is a good one. This is a good one. Where did I write that Basically, it is talk is cheap. Walking the talk is required. So the kids will definitely call you out. They will hold you accountable, and they are waiting for that day to come when you don't do what you told them to do. So that would be the biggest thing, is walk the talk. If you want your kids not to use cuss words, you better not be using them, because that's going to come around the day. It's either one, going to give them the license to do it, whether it's cussing, smoking, drinking, whatever, or it's going to be the one that say, well, you did it.
They don't forget, do they?
No, they don't. So walk the talk.
That's good. Okay, I want to change directions just a little bit. It's still on your list, though.
Okay.
What do you do to spend quality time with each individual child? It's much easier to do all three together, but you also have such a wide age spread. I would imagine that it's very important to spend time alone with each one as much as you can.
It is, and if my daughters were here, the older one would tell me I don't probably do a good job at it, and as they get older, it's definitely harder. I look at the middle one, and I say whatever they enjoy doing, where they will let you join in, is always a good opportunity. And then on the youngest one, piggyback rides and shoulder rides are always welcomed. And sometimes they just hop on when you're not ready.
I know.
And sometimes it's all three at the same time, right?
Sometimes it is.
I have to say, you said that your son is almost as big as you. I've been looking. He's taller than you. He's bigger than you now.
He is bigger than me.
And
that's the first time I've heard him say that.
He is.
He's admitting it.
I look at you from the back, and I can't tell the difference, because he looks so much like you from the back, and he's just such a big boy.
It's very surreal to have, someone who's 6'5", 280 walking around beside you, who is my son. And it wasn't that long ago. He was in my arms in a picture photo shoot that we were taking. So,
how quickly do you think that time went by?
Man.
In a blink.
I remember that day that we were taking pictures, so it was, just seems like a couple weeks ago.
Well, he sure is. He's a good boy.
Thank you.
He's a very nice, very respectful young man.
Appreciate it. That's good to hear that you've put that time in, and you keep making those small corrections so you don't have to make that huge correction down the road. I think that's another piece that I didn't see any questions relating to that, but, keeping tabs on your kids to the point where you have to make only small corrections and you don't have to make these large corrections, and pays dividends, because they don't forget. They remember who the boss is. They remember who the parents are, and it keeps them in that role of being a child, but knowing that you love them. That was one of the things that I saw right off the bat when Cammie and I got married, and we had an Insta family with McKiley. Was she required the small corrections, and if we were able to do that, it was a lot easier than letting things go to the point where I couldn't deal with it any longer, and now I got to bring a reeler back in. So if I could encourage folks that are hopefully listening and wanting to get something out of this, is taking the time to teach your kids to think on their own. Caden was 2 years old, and I had him going downstairs. I trained him to go down the stairs, her, McKiley, and Shaylee, all of them, because I didn't want him falling down the stairs. So if I showed them how to navigate the stairs, then I knew they'd be okay. I think that's a big factor. No matter what it is in life that you're going to do, is teach your kids how you want them to interact or do those things. Don't shelter them. Don't kid-proof your house.
That's the mom's first inclination, is to protect them.
I mean, we went into a house the other day, and it was completely kid-proof. I couldn't even open an outlet cover to get something plugged in. And how does that help your kid? If they don't learn to listen, that's going to be the biggest thing that I've found teaching our kids is, give me the penny out of your mouth, and they give me the penny out of their mouth, versus me digging in there getting it, and then teaching them, no, that penny doesn't go in your mouth, and then they know. So we never had any close calls like that with those things where you see kids, kid-proofing houses. So that was just my little extra there.
You said they were 2 years old, but really it's when they were crawling. As soon as they were mobile, they were taught to go down the stairs. And so I've always kind of labeled him as the anti-baby gate dad. You can pretty much go in a house and figure out the style of parenting. I'm going to say that lightly, because some of those things might be.
But that was the thing that I made a point to do in our house, is because we always had stairs, and I didn't want to put up a baby gate the child's going to learn because I'm here and I'm going to help protect them and I'm going to teach him those things that he needs to touch. And I think that's something that you can learn for the rest of your life. I mean, if you can't teach the child when they're young, how are you going to teach them when they're old? So,
how does it make you feel as a dad when your children are going through something that you just can't fix? We hear that men like to be the fixers. You know, you guys, that's your tendency, is to figure out how to fix something.
I wrote this one down too, and it makes me feel good, for one, and I'll tell you why. Because they get a chance to exercise their own faith we've been teaching them about over these years. So from the standpoint of, I have two answers to that, but the first one, it sounds kind of odd. Why would you feel good about something you can't fix with your kiddos? Well, now it's a chance for them to exercise what I've taught them. Mm-hmm. It's no different than taking a test. You can't help them through that test, whether it's kindergarten or in college or getting, the law degree and passing the bars. You can't do anything about it, but now you get a chance to watch and sit back and go, all right, I get to let them feel some of what my life has been like, and now they get to experience, so it's a growth opportunity. So that's the first part. And then the second part of that answer is a chance to see how well we raise them to navigate what's needed to come through the issue. So a chance to see how well we raise them to navigate. I can't even read what I wrote, but basically it's to observe how well they're going to navigate things that are obstacles in their life using what we taught them. And so I think that's it's one of those opportunities I love to watch.
Which then allows you to do those small course corrections after you kind of observe. I think there's an age when you start letting them make those decisions and seeing how they're going to do it versus, it's kind of age relative. Mm-hmm. That's good. I like that.
Now, I know that you have two older children, a son and a daughter, and I'm assuming, they're like other typical children, and this is not on the list either. I just happened to think about it. Oh, great. But they're thinking about dating.
No.
You wish. You wish.
Okay, we can cut the show short now. Yes, we're dealing with that.
What kind of a young man do you want for your daughter? Or what kind of girl do you want for your son? What kind of wife do you want for your son? What do you hope that they're looking for?
I think Tammy's better suited to answer this question than me.
No,
I'd rather just not have anything to do with that.
I like the dad's perspective. I remember telling Cammie not too long ago, I wished I had figured out something years ago in my marriage, because I was always trying to take care of things kind of to protect my husband so that he wouldn't get so upset. And I finally figured out, that was his job. It was his job to be the protector, not me. And so I stopped. And it gave me such relief. I kind of went, phew, because I would tell everybody, go talk to their dad. Go see their dad, or go ask your dad. And I wish I'd done that sooner. Mm-hmm. It would have, I'm sure it would have elevated him as the husband and as the father, and it would have taken a load off me. I was wrong. I should not have done that. And I wish I'd let him do it. So, I had figured that out by the time our older daughter started dating, and I could say, you need to go talk to him, not me. You need to go talk to him.
How do you see that working in our kids' life? Do you make decisions, or do you say go see dad?
You know what? Betty gave me that advice recently, and I kind of shared with her that I had started doing that and just really finding relief and being able to get out of the way, because I think Betty's right. We try to protect that father-child relationship a lot of the times as moms, when really you come to a point where you realize you're just in the way of it. So I think we've worked through some of that, and I think that it's really come to light in having a young adult child, where you really start recognizing their tendencies to kind of go through mom, to do certain things. And so getting out of the way of that puts some pressure on the relationship, but it's just like you mentioned earlier, that tension is what's going to cause growth in the relationship as well, is what I've started to realize.
And so to answer your question, I think doing more homework would have been a better place for me to be in the present day scenario.
But you don't always know that at the time.
No.
Not until you're faced with it.
You don't. I know, being obviously a male and having gone through that to find my wife, it definitely, so we talk about this. It helps me to understand what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Mikhaili, are you, what is it? Tell me something so I know what expectations I should have.
You mean as far as trying to define friendships, relationships? Yeah.
What'd you do over there?
I had my microphone off for a brief moment.
Exactly. So defining the relationship. Is this a friend? Okay, is it more than a friend? Well, then I'd like to sit down and understand both of your positions. And I know this is something that Cammie and I have gotten good information from Cammie.
I'm sure you have.
That I need to sit down and understand that. And it makes complete sense. So it's therefore becomes my job to either get in front of that relationship with those two and have some expectations from them. And I think that works great because then they know that I know. And it's no different than our tenant screening business where we get in front of the tenants and say, listen, we know what's on your credit report or we're going to have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And we're all on that same sheet of music now. So I think, referencing information, it helps if they understand what's going on between them. And then if they clue mom or dad in, then I can help hold them accountable.
See, I think that's so good when a dad will do that. For some reason, it's more challenging for a mom.
For sure.
I love it when a dad will do that.
And I'm not saying I did it or am doing it yet, but we're working it out. And talking through now is definitely helping. And Cammie and I have had conversations about it. And it's just as confusing for the mom and dad as it is for the kids. I mean, they are just having fun being together and enjoying the time. But new parents who don't have a family history of support, what is it we do? What is our role in that? And that helps us have a better relationship in the midst of a new founded relationship or even a friendship for that matter.
Well, and I think what's interesting too is, the mom is super vital in the younger years of raising the kid. Not to say dad isn't, but you really recognize the need for a father as your children are navigating, your kids, navigating those teen years and into adulthood. That's where the father just becomes absolutely vital. And then, as you mentioned earlier, in the absence of a father, I really think the church can fill a big part of that gap in being that accountability to the young adult. But so, we're definitely navigating those waters.
Those are challenging waters to walk through, too.
They are.
Mm-hmm.
Especially your first one. You feel, you don't really know what are the boundaries. What should I expect? Where do you start to let go? What's the proper discipline for that? So it's all so new. It's just like having a new baby, but it's a new little young adult.
But it's fun. I mean,
it is.
It'll bring you closer together. And there may be times when you have to say, I was wrong. We've got to change this up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I was okay with you coming home at midnight, but I'm not. I really want you home at 11. Things like that.
Yeah, I like that. I like how you put that. That's a great tip. That it is okay to change the rules.
It is okay to change the rules. I want to change direction. I wanted to ask you some fun things. What's some of the fun things you do with your kids?
Probably not enough. We did spend a lot of time out navigating the trails with the ATVs and side-by-sides, and had some. Cammie was just up there last weekend, and apparently we've got quite a few memories.
We do.
And so that is something that I really enjoyed doing.
Do your kids enjoy it as well?
I think so. I know, the youngest one, she had some super intense fear of the mud hole.
I don't blame her.
And
Well, I mean, we were stuck there for like 7 hours.
Oh, okay.
So.
And once we navigated that a couple times with no issues, where she kind of walked through it and then got in with Dad again on the other end and did that a couple times, it was, we're going to the mud hole. So we got through that, and it was a good time. The older ones, I think they all enjoyed it towards the end of that time in our life. So that is something I really enjoy doing, with or without them. But with them, I think it's just individual. I'm finding out, as they get older, it's different. So I try to plug myself into whatever my middle son's doing and be available. That's the biggest one. And knowing that we can kind of have some dialogue. The older one, I think she's so in tune with other things that are going on in her life. There are just small snippets that I just got to take a hold of and enjoy. If she comes up and gives me hugs in the house, I just clamp on and
Enjoy every
that
minute of
moment.
that.
Yep. And then the youngest one, we went to Color Me Mine the other day and just did some arts and crafts, and she enjoyed it. And so it's just a matter of whatever is fits their time in their life. It's making myself available for that. So
I have to ask you one thing. I know it's almost time to quit. One of the things that I loved that your family did was the elf costumes when you picked up your oldest one at the airport.
There may be another elf sighting in the near future because we still have those outfits.
I haven't told him what you mentioned earlier about that potential new sighting, but we got something in the works. So
I keep asking Cammie, how much did you pay your son to do that? Because he deserved a medal.
That was part of, we talked about the small course corrections. He knows who the boss is, and he respects that. And as much as he may or may not enjoy doing those things, he looks back on it and has fun and realizes that was a good time, even though
it was a great memory. I'm telling you, it's something that your family will never forget.
Yeah,
it was great.
We stay young in that capacity.
You are young. Oh my goodness, are young.
Pretty. I'll help us stay that way because I enjoy keeping things lighthearted. So my kids have
that's good.
A lot of future of that.
That's what dads are good for too.
They sure are, aren't they? No matter how hard they are on them, it seems like Dad's still the first one they go to have a good time.
To have fun.
Yep. We want to thank you so much, Jeremiah, for just being willing to come in and share your heart with us regarding being a father today for this Father's Day Living Well program. So thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having me, and I hope that you guys continue to have some males in the mix.
Ooh, we might just do that.
And that's another Living Well program, and you can find us here every Wednesday at 1 p.m. on KATB 89.3 in Anchorage, as well as KJLP 88.9 in Palmer. And be sure to check us out online at katb.org or our Facebook page, as well as on iTunes, available for download there as well.